This is Jim Chadwell, Superintendent of Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. This is a digital presentation being shared throughout the community in regard to the November 7th bond election. Thank you for taking time to learn more about the propositions. But first, please enjoy this brief video overview.
Based on the recommendation of citizens, parents, and educators representing each of the district's high school feeder zones, the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD Board of Trustees voted unanimously to call an election for November 7th, 2023, for local voters to decide a multi-proposition school bond proposal. The proposed projects include replacing both Wayside Middle and Saginaw Elementary, building a new middle school, and a new elementary school. Also included are safety and security projects district-wide, land for future school sites, and capital improvements and maintenance for aging facilities and operational systems. Other projects include instructional technology devices, network infrastructure and support systems, athletic upgrades to address equity at Saginaw High School, and a natatorium for district and community use.
To learn more about the proposed bond, visit bond2023.emsisd.com.
As I've talked to people around the community, I'm often asked, what is a school bond election? In essence, it's permission from voters to borrow money for school construction, renovation, safety security projects, land, and other assets like technology. It's much like what we do when we get permission from a bank and get a credit line in order to get a loan or perhaps a mortgage. It's not actually the loan itself, it's just the amount of money that we can loan. And in this case, instead of asking a bank, this has to be approved by the community. The issuance of debt actually occurs over time as actual buildings are constructed or other projects are completed. There are multiple reasons school districts call school bond elections, and you'll see 4 reasons listed here: enrollment growth, safety and security, aging facilities, and student programs. All of these I'll discuss later in the presentation. The first is student enrollment growth. EMS ISD is growing between 600 and 1,200 students per year. The average is about 700. This is equivalent to opening a large elementary or a mid-sized middle school every year. Because of that growth, we have built bond plans that would ask permission from the voters in order to build buildings. In this case, we have had most recently Hatley Elementary that opened this year in 2023, and Eagle Mountain High School that is scheduled to open in 2024. The district's enrollment growth will be over capacity at 2 campuses, Wayside Middle School and Prairie Vista. What you'll see here are enrollment projections, starting with the current enrollment of 23,093 students and projected over time by 2040 to be at 40,000 students. As you drive around the community, you can see there has been a surge in new home starts, especially in the north part of the school district. EMS is in the top 6 DFW school districts for annual closings and is actually the only one in the top 6 to have more new home starts than annual closings. We also have had the highest number of lots in development, 3,950, of any school district in the DFW region, even more than Northwest ISD. This particular category has to do with the land being developed for future homes, which is again what we're seeing along the Boat Club corridor and along Bonds Ranch. EMS is experiencing an increase in single-family home starts, while the rest of the DFW area is experiencing a 20% drop over last year. The next category is safety and security. School districts in Texas continue to implement safety and security measures designed to protect students and staff. This includes new state mandates that have gone into effect the last few years, including those as a result of the most recent legislative session. The next category is aging systems and facilities. Facility planning committees in Texas often propose capital improvements to address systems and facilities that are nearing the end of their life cycles. Some capital improvements can be improved in the district's annual maintenance budget. Most districts, however, do not receive enough state funding to cover all of the expenses associated with the maintaining of aging facilities and systems. Finally, student programs. As enrollment grows in a school district, so does the demand for new services and our facilities to support students. This is why a school district will form a committee of parents, taxpayers, and school employees who represent a cross-section of the community to study existing and potential facilities to accommodate growing and/or newly identified student programs. This committee will typically make recommendations to the 7 elected members of the local school board. We had a long-range facility planning committee that was comprised of 55 active members from all 3 high school attendance zones, representing a variety of perspectives, including parents and grandparents, business leaders, civic leaders, teachers and administrators, volunteers, retirees, alumni, and taxpayers. The Facility Planning Committee's charge was to consider the educational needs of all students and align with the district's mission and Aspire 2025 Pillars of Excellence, which is our strategic plan. It was also to represent the entire community, its values, and perceptions in the facility planning process, to assess and prioritize the district's current and long-term facility needs, including new construction, renovations, equipment system life cycles, and capital improvements, and finally, to bring forward recommendations to the board as to how to address the district's facility needs to support enrollment growth and program progress, both short and long term. Here are the members of the committee that participated in the process. The committee's recommendations were to call a multi-proposition bond election for November 2023, avoid an over-reliance on portable buildings by addressing student enrollment growth and classroom building capacity needs, to prioritize safety and security projects district-wide, include maintenance of aging facilities and capital improvements, provide equitable facilities across high schools, middle schools, and programs, concentrate on must-do and need-to-do projects, and minimize the financial impact to the local taxpayer. The trustees then did call a multi-proposition school bond election for November 7th, 2023. There are 4 propositions listed: Proposition A, Proposition B, Proposition C, and Proposition D. I will now go into details of each one of these propositions. The first is Proposition A, $540.9 million. Proposition A addresses current and future growth for the district and includes replacement and new facilities, safety and security items, maintenance and upgrades of aging equipment and systems, standardization of equity of facilities, and the purchase of land for district facilities. It includes 2 replacement schools, Wayside Middle School and Saginaw Elementary. When the 2017 bond program was approved and projects were started in 2018, construction prices were escalating at a predictable rate of 3 to 5% annually. The COVID pandemic resulted in an unprecedented increase in construction prices of as much as 25% in 1 year. The availability and cost of materials, supply chain delays, and personnel expenses all contributed to this escalation. Several capital improvement projects from the 2017 bond were already under contract when COVID became a pandemic in 2020, and these projects were not impacted by inflationary increases. These included the Boswell High School athletic renovations and the district administration building. Those projects were able to be completed within the available bond funds in the 2017 bond. The 2 largest projects, Eagle Mountain High School and Wayside Middle School, were not yet under contract. Not being under contract meant construction prices on these projects were subject to COVID-related increases. In the case of Saginaw Elementary, we recognize and respect the historical significance of the school in our community. Intentional efforts would be made to honor and acknowledge the school's history within the design, for instance, keeping elements such as the original school bell that exist on the property today. Additionally, district leaders desire to maintain the original WPA portion, classrooms, and auditorium, barring any unforeseen conditions such as the impact of current building codes, management of storm drainage, etc. Also included in the proposition is a middle school number 7 and elementary number 19. Continuing with safety security projects with examples such as playground surface improvements, additional security cameras, entry vestibule buzz-in systems for middle school and high school such as exist now in the elementary, police communication equipment, additional sidewalks and fencing. Also, there would be additional facilities such as the Watson High School addition and the Agricultural Science Building. Finally, replacing aging systems, a portion of the Proposition A addressing aging facilities throughout the district, which would include roof projects, HVAC, carpet, vinyl-coated tile, elementary gym floors, tennis court resurfacing, middle school track resurfacing, wood gym floor sanding, marquees, LED lighting systems, and vehicles to serve emergency security staff, students, and staff. For a complete list, you can go to the bond website and see a campus-by-campus project list. Next is Proposition B, $20.2 million. Proposition B includes technology items including student devices as well as expansion of the infrastructure district-wide to accommodate the technology load on the network due to enrollment growth. We support a one-to-one model for student learning, meaning every student has access to a district-owned device for classes each school year. Bonds for these short-term assets would be no more than 5 years. Proposition C, $47 million. Proposition C is for indoor athletic improvements at Saginaw High School. The proposal includes an indoor multi-purpose facility, locker room, weight room, training room, and team room additions. No renovations or additions to the stadium or outdoor fields are included in this proposal. If approved, the facilities at Saginaw High School would provide equity with the indoor athletic facilities at Boswell and the new Eagle Mountain High School under construction. I'm often asked what it means to have equitable facilities. A good way to think about this is to think about the history of our school district. When Boswell High School first opened in the early 60s, it set the standard because it was the only high school. Moving forward, in 2005, Saginaw High School opened, which set a new standard. In 2012, Chisholm Trail High School opened, which also set a new standard. So in 2017, the bond at that time included renovations to facilities for Boswell High School that had not been renovated since the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, bringing it up to the Chisholm Trail High School standard. Also, it addressed the design and construction of Eagle Mountain High School that matched the standard of Chisholm Trail High School and the renovated Boswell High School. So the 2023 bond would bring the Saginaw High School athletic spaces up to the standards of the other three high schools. Proposition D, $51 million, is for a natatorium or swimming facility to support all district sports and provide community programming, including learn to swim and drown prevention programs, health and fitness classes, water safety lessons, and special events in association with a community management partner such as the YMCA. In the 2017 bond, voters approved a $5 million allocation towards a YMCA natatorium. This $5 million was set aside and would be added to any funds approved by voters as part of Proposition D. I'm often asked what happened at that time because there was an expectation that the natatorium would be built very soon thereafter. That was part of a program in which the YMCA was going to raise funds for the construction of their facility and also the natatorium. As we know, it takes time in order to raise money for a facility like that because it's all donor-based. And at that time, we also had COVID. YMCA had to restructure a number of its programs and at that time had to really focus on their core business that they were running every day with their local programs. We have continued conversations over the years and we've reinvigorated those discussions in the last year. So if the bond is approved, it would enhance the size of that space to a larger natatorium that would address the programs that I mentioned earlier. If for whatever reason the bond did not pass, then we would continue with our partnership with the YMCA with the $5 million already allocated from the 2017 bond. The following is the projected timeline starting in 2023 with the bond election consideration. If approved, we start construction in 2024 with Wayside Middle School, safety and security projects, natatorium projects, Saginaw High School Scene Shop, going into 26-27, Middle School number 7, Watson High School addition, Saginaw Athletics, 2028, Elementary 19, the Ag Science Building, 2029, Saginaw Elementary School, and finally 2030, land purchases and remaining projects. Throughout these years would be replacements for carpet, tile, all of the items that would be listed under aging facilities. School district budgets and tax rates are comprised of two parts, maintenance and operations or M&O, and debt service or interest and sinking fund. Many understand their total tax rate and they understand how much they pay in property taxes. They may not understand that it's broken down into these two distinct parts. M&O pays for salaries, supplies, utilities, fuel, etc. In our school district, about 86% of the M&O budget goes to salaries. The second part is debt service or interest and sinking fund. This is new construction, land purchases, facility renovations. These are all the items that are paid for through the approval of a bond. The school bond election impacts the debt service or INS rate of the tax rate. Money approved for bond construction cannot be used for maintenance and operation purposes, and therefore you'll see on the slide that funds cannot shift from debt service to maintenance and operations, but you can spend money on maintenance and operations for new construction, land purchases, and facility. However, that fund is limited and again mostly goes to salaries. This next slide shows the historical tax rate in the district. Starting in 2017-2018, the overall tax rate was $1.54, again comprised of the M&O tax rate and the INS tax rate. This was decreased in 2019-2020 and again in 2021 again in 21-22, again in 22-23, and most recently in August 23 to an overall tax rate of $1.24.720. The overall change there is about 30 cents since 2017-2018. In November, voters will have the opportunity to vote on a constitutional amendment designed to provide statewide tax relief by raising the $40,000 homestead exemption to $100,000. In addition, most voters who apply for the exemption on their primary residence will see an overall tax rate and tax bill decrease. Because of the tax compression caused by recent legislation, the overall EMS tax rate will drop 18.74 cents in 23-24. The financial implications for EMS property owners would be an increase in the INS rate by 1/10 of a penny. This equates to a $2.42 annual increase on the average primary homestead residence. In our district, the average home is $242,000. Regardless of the outcome of the homestead exemption, the proposed November 23 school bond election is expected to cost the average taxpayer less than $3 per year on the average primary homestead residence. Residents 65 and older who apply for the homestead exemption will see no school tax increase as a result of the bond proposal. On the November 7th ballot, you'll have an opportunity as a voter to vote for or against each of the four propositions separately, Proposition A, B, C, or D. But I also encourage you to download your ballot off of the Tarrant County website to see what other propositions will also be listed as a result of the most recent legislative session. There are other measures on the ballot, including 14 state constitutional amendments. If the bond proposition is approved, the district will sell bonds to fund projects as capacity allows and market interest rates are favorable. Projects will be phased in and completed as enrollment growth warrants. If the bond proposition is not approved, EMS ISD will consider alternative options for managing anticipated student growth. These options for Texas school districts include utilizing portable buildings, implementing attendance rezoning, adjusting class sizes, making operational budget cuts, and are proposing future bond elections. The district may also consider proposing replacement cycles for equipment and technology devices currently in use. The following are some key dates to consider. Early voting starts on October the 23rd and completes on November 3rd, and the election day is on Tuesday, November 7th. If you have any questions, I encourage you to visit our Bond 2023 website at bond2023.emsisd.com. In addition, if you would like to go on to Let's Talk, which is on our main website, you can ask a question and you will receive a response. Thank you, and we appreciate your time.